joining us tonight. My name is Steve Robinson. I'm with the United Liberty Coalition, and tonight we are here to discuss the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, I believe is what it's called, right?
Sure.
It's a radical agenda that poses a threat to the foundations of our country, really, honestly. Our guest to help us understand this topic tonight is RJ Jaffe with the Protect Your Vote USA group.
Sure.
It's good to see you again, RJ.
Good to see you, sir. Thanks for having me.
So go ahead and tell the viewers a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks, Steve, to you and the United Liberty Coalition for giving us a chance to talk about this really important topic tonight. As you said, my name is RJ Jaffe, and I'm with a group called Protect Your Vote USA. And I'm one of the founding members of the group, and we are really a true grassroots organization. And what I mean by that is just a group of citizens that got together over a shared concern over this really dangerous National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. And again, thrilled to be here to talk about it tonight.
Well, thank you guys for joining us tonight. So we're just going to go ahead and jump right in, and mostly I'm just going to have a conversation with my friend here. So, RJ,
Sir.
please explain to the viewers what the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is.
Yeah, so the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is really dangerous legislation that's making its way across many state legislatures in the country. And what is so scary about this is the purpose of the legislation is to really fundamentally change the way we choose and elect the President of the United States. And so what it intends to do is replace our current electoral college system with basically just declaring the winner of the National Popular Vote the President of the United States.
Wow. Okay, well, can you explain why that is so dangerous? I mean, at a first glance, it kind of seems reasonable to have the National Popular Vote winner named president, right? Whoever gets the most votes wins.
Yeah, we hear that a lot when we start trying to talk to people about this. And so I think the first thing we want to do is level set a little bit about the type of government that we are in right now, or the type of government that was set up for our country. While we are a form of democracy, or a democratic form of government, we are not a pure or true democracy, and a lot of people do get confused by that. In a pure democracy, basically everybody gets a vote and the majority rules, and the majority always wins, and really what happens in that case is the minority, they have no voice whatsoever. And so what we've seen throughout history is that when you have majority rule, what you really end up with at the end of the day is mob rule, and the minority are left completely unprotected. So what our founding fathers did instead was they instituted a much more stable form of government called a representative republic.
Okay. That's interesting to hear you say that, honestly, because most people, they would never know or understand that we're not actually a democracy, because almost all of our leaders, you hear them time and time again on the news and media saying, you know, America's a democracy. Can you explain a representative republic a little bit?
Yeah, let me talk to you a little bit about that, because you're exactly right. Everybody confuses being a democratic form of government with being a pure democracy. And so I could talk for hours about representative republics, but for the purpose for tonight, we don't have that much time. I don't want to bore the listeners. So I want to focus on two pieces of what that means as it's relevant to this conversation. Mm-hmm. The first one is that our representative republic is a constitutional republic. And what that really means is that the Constitution of the United States is the law of the land, and it clearly defines what our government can and cannot do. The second part of it is this idea around federalism, or state sovereignty. And what that means is that the states maintain their own independent sovereignty, and that they have a say in how our government is run. They're not forced to just listen to what the federal government says. They actually have a really important say in how the government's run. Not only do they have that say, but they have a responsibility to zealously protect that sovereignty. And we'll get more into this as we go through this, but for now I want people to think about a quote that's often attributed to one of our founding fathers, Benjamin Franklin, when he was talking about this. What he said was that a democracy is when two wolves and a lamb get together to vote to decide what's for dinner. I think it's safe to say for the lamb, not so good.
Yeah.
Right? So what he then said was, But what liberty is when the lamb comes to the dinner table well armed and able to defend himself. And so the founding fathers believed that this republic form of government was the armament for the lamb or the minority.
That's interesting. So can you talk about the Electoral College and explain how it helps protect us from a pure democracy?
Yeah, great question. So it's first of all, it's really important to understand that in the Constitution, it lays out how the Electoral College works. And so you'll find that, if you're curious to look, is in Article 2 of the Constitution. Lays it all out for us. And then in the 12th Amendment, it further clarifies how this works. And so the Electoral College is our current process for determining who the President of the United States will be. And so what basically happens is that each state is given a number, or designated a number of electors that's based on the total number of members of Congress. So your 2 senators plus your House of Representatives. And these electors are going to go to this Electoral College and actually do that ultimate final vote. And so because it is heavily weighted towards the number of representatives that the state has, it is weighted towards the larger, more populous states. So larger states with more citizens in their populace do get more votes. But at the same time, the smaller states still have a very distinct vote that they get to control and own, so that their voice must be heard. And so what most states do is they choose their electors based on the statewide vote that occurs during election day. And then, so what that does is it requires a presidential candidate, if he wants the votes in your state, then he or she needs to be able to earn those votes by addressing the issues that are important in that state. Hence, even a small state or a loosely populated state still has a really clear voice.
Okay, cool. So how many electoral votes are needed for a candidate to win?
Yeah, so if you add up all of those senator electors and the congressional electors, and then District of Columbia gets 3 as well, so you end up with 538 total electors. So in order to become president, you need to get half plus 1, which is 270. So you guys probably have all seen when you're watching and you're running up to the election or on election night, and they've got the map up and they talk about the path to 270. This is what they're talking about, right? They're talking about, So they're talking about how does a candidate get the 270 electoral votes needed? And this is literally the blueprint of how a campaign is run, on how that candidate is going to navigate through all the different states throughout our great country in order to be able to amass this 270 electoral votes. And so what it does is it empowers every state to say, hey, what about us? What are you going to do? What does it matter to us, so that you can get the votes, the electoral votes in our state?
Okay. If the Constitution spells out the process for how we vote currently,
Right.
Then wouldn't it require a constitutional amendment to change the electoral process?
Steve, that's a great question, and this is another one we hear all the time. This will never happen. You'll never get that constitutional amendment passed. So this is where it really starts to get scary if you love the Constitution and the founding principles of our country, because what the folks who support this have done is they found basically a way to turn the Constitution on itself. And what it is that Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution actually designates that the states retain the right to determine how they will actually determine who their electors are to send to the Electoral College. So while, as I mentioned earlier, all states at this point use a statewide vote, it isn't constitutionally required. So what the folks who support this have been doing, and really most of these folks are really far left on the political spectrum, but as we'll find out in a few, as we talk more, not all, but a lot of them are on the far left, and what they've really done is they've turned this around on us, and they're trying to basically undermine exactly what the founding fathers had tried to do.
Wow. Okay, so this seems like it's a pretty serious threat.
This is a huge threat, and hopefully folks are starting to feel just how dangerous this is. Let me explain a little bit more about what they're trying to do. What the National Popular Vote Compact does is it actually creates new legislation in the individual state that requires that state to bind its electors to the candidate who wins the national popular vote. Now, once they get 270 electoral votes worth of states signing on to the compact, this compact gets activated. At that point, regardless of what the rest of the country thinks, they'll have enough votes to just declare the winner of the national popular vote the president. and
Wow.
really go against everything that our founding fathers had thought about how you elect a president.
Just so you guys understand, there's about 5 major cities in this country that make up a third of the population. That's huge.
Yes, that's exactly right. Chicago would determine the president.
Yeah, I'm pretty scared for the future of America.
It is scary, really scary, but we're just getting started, because I got to tell you something else, guys. Well, we're just started in the last few months trying to help more get the word out. The folks who support this have been at this for over 10 years, Steve, and they already have passed this legislation in 11 jurisdictions in our country.
Wow.
And I say jurisdictions because it's 10 states plus the District of Columbia. And in those 11 states, they have already amassed 165 of those needed 270 electoral votes. So, guys, they're already 60% or more of the way there towards making this change. And to make matters worse, 6 more states are considering this legislation. 29 additional electoral votes are at risk in the 2017 state legislative session.
Wow. Okay.
Dangerous stuff, Steve.
So let me just ask you,
Yeah.
if the national popular vote that they're trying to pass right now, if that was in effect during our last election,
Yeah.
would Hillary Clinton be our president right now?
That's exactly right. But I do want to take a minute to say, I appreciate your pain on that, but I do want to take a minute to say this is not a partisan issue. This is not about how do we prevent Hillary Clinton or some globalist for becoming president. This is really about if you believe in the founding principles of this country and you believe in the Constitution, then you should be really scared about this idea that this dramatic change would occur. And as you said, imagine the presidential candidate only had to pander to the needs of those few large cities in those few large states. And then we would be in a situation where Chicago, New York, Detroit, San Francisco, Los Angeles decide our president, and everyone else.
Wow. So then who would represent the rest of the
Well,
country?
sadly, nobody would. That's really the truth. The rural states won't matter. The farming industry, ranching, blue-collar manufacturing workers, coal miners, folks on the border, none of those folks would matter anymore. And I want to go back to the point, though, because the 2016 election is a really great way to really understand this. So most of you, or many of you, may have seen the electoral map after the election, and particularly that county map that was so bright red because almost everybody in almost every county in America voted more towards Donald Trump. In fact, 85% of the counties voted for Donald Trump. So the question then would be, how did Hillary Clinton still win the national popular vote?
Yeah.
Right? Well, what she did was she won big in large cities that are part of large states. So basically by winning New York City, huge, Los Angeles, San Francisco, huge, and Chicago, those kind of cities, huge, she was able to carry she was able to carry the national popular vote. So what would the future look like? Well, people are going to follow the Hillary Clinton map in 2020. If this were to be in effect, people would follow that map, and they would only worry about those few states and those big cities, and that would be who decided who the president would be. I mean, honestly, if I was running for president, that's what I would do. I would follow the Hillary Clinton map.
In a popular vote, yeah. I mean, why worry about the rest of the country at that point?
Nobody's gonna.
I'm just thinking about here locally for a second.
Yeah.
Because here in Arizona, we have some of the best Second Amendment laws in the country, and it's mostly a red state. I mean, should we be worried about it here in Arizona, this national popular vote?
You know, being here in Arizona, very red, you're right, constitutional carry, constitutional in a lot of ways. When I first started looking at this, I thought, well, at least I'm in a state where this isn't going to happen. Boy, was I wrong. So, I know, right? So, here, this is how scary it is, folks. In Arizona in 2016, this legislation, this NPVC, or National Public Vote Compact legislation, was introduced in both chambers of the state legislature here in Arizona. It went to the House first. And it was introduced in the House by the Speaker of the House, who, by the way, is a Republican. And he introduced the bill, and he had it co-sponsored by all 15 Democrat House members, and 30 of the 45 Republicans in the House were co-sponsors of this bill. Before anybody knew what happened, this legislation passed in the Arizona House in 2016.
Wow.
So then it has to go to the Senate. It was introduced in the Senate. Guys, it had the support of of all 10 Democrat senators and 12 of 20 Republicans. So again, it had enough votes to pass in the Senate. Fortunately, at this point, activists and folks in the state of Arizona will be able to mount a defense to this. And a lot of great citizens, folks in the Arizona Republican Assembly, got the word out, and they were able to get in the ear of then Senate President in Arizona, now U.S. Congressman from the 5th District, Andy Biggs. And Senator Biggs was listening to what was being shared, and he realized how bad and dangerous this was, and he was able to kill this on the in committee in the Senate. But had it gone to the floor in the Senate, if it wasn't for these folks, it would have been passed in Arizona in 2016, and we would have just handed our votes here to Hillary Clinton and the folks in Los Angeles in 2016.
Wow. So, just real quick, can you guys see why liberty activists are so important? Just throwing it out there.
This is a big deal, folks.
Yeah.
This is a real threat.
So it sounds like we kind of won the battle in Arizona as far as this is concerned, right?
Well, I wish I could give you that good news, Steve, but I cannot tell you that. So we thought the same thing. This legislation was introduced again in 2017, again by a Republican. Introduced this again. But because we had gotten the word out, it made no progress, and we thought we were good to go. And then we found out in the early part of this year that these national popular vote folks are very stubborn and very creative. And so what they are now doing is collecting signatures, folks, to put this on the ballot as a ballot initiative, or many of you may know, like a proposition vote, so that it'll go to the voters of the state of Arizona at the 2018 midterm election. And that's the work they're doing now. And this is tough for us because this is not an easy concept to really be able to follow. And in our media and in our world, it is hard to get good access to really good information so the voters can make an informed decision. As you said in the beginning, it's really easy to put the word out. Well, most votes wins. So our work to help people understand is so difficult. And to make matters worse, I'm not familiar with a man by the name of John Koza, but he's the founder of Scientific Gaming. So he's the founder of a company that made a lot of money in high-tech gaming and really made most of his money in lottery scratcher tickets. Yeah. So he made his money, running a lottery or the technology behind running lottery. He is the founder of one of the founders of National Popular Vote, and has a lot of money to spend. And we are aware now that he has committed $12 million to Arizona alone for this ballot initiative if it gets on the ballot for 2018.
Holy cow.
Imagine the number of commercials that are going to be bombarding the citizens of Arizona, telling them what a wonderful thing the National Popular Vote is.
We've got our work cut out for us, folks.
We are fighting an uphill battle.
Yeah, we need to get the word out. This is important. RJ, in closing, can you just tell the viewers where we can go to learn more about this?
Yeah, so in order to overcome this kind of stuff, we need citizens to be active, liberty activists, as he says. So there's quite a few things that we would ask you to do. First one would be to go to our website, protectyourvoteusa.org. Mm-hmm. And at the website, you will get a ton of really great information. You can sign up so that we can send you information, but also you'll get great information that you can learn more about this movement. There's also links to all 50 states, so you can begin to learn more about what's going on in your state, as I described what's going on here in Arizona. And I think a lot of people will be surprised by just all the danger that's going on in their own states. In addition, as a grassroots group, we are actively working to create groups in every state who can defend the turf in their own state. So we encourage you to go to our Facebook group and join the group at Protect Your Vote. And then you can also, we post tons of really useful information there. You can also get involved with the group. It's where we organize the groups within our own individual states in that closed group so that we can really get good information at the state level. We also have a Twitter feed that we've just gotten started with, where we share our cool articles and connect with other folks who are on our side in opposition of this. So you can follow us at Say No NPV. Steve, here's the most important thing I'd ask all your viewers to do, and that is get active. Contact your local, state level legislators and let them know what you think about this. That includes your House representative, your local state representative, your local state senator, the leadership of House and Senate, and then in additionally your governor, who ultimately would have to sign such a crazy bill.
Yeah.
Let them know you are not okay with this, that you do not want to hand your vote off to somebody else, and if they support it, you will give your vote to someone else in the next election. You
Okay,
can
cool.
write them, you can email them, you can write them, you can email them, you can call them. In fact, you can even walk right in the front door and tell them. But get that word out to your local people that you are not okay with.
Okay, good. RJ, thank you for being here and talking with us tonight.
My pleasure.
And thank you all for joining us. This discussion was very important, and it's probably one of the most important issues facing our country today. I hope you all take this very seriously, and I hope you take the time to go and visit protectyourvoteusa.org. You need to go there and learn more about why this is a threat and what we can do to counteract this and try to prevent this from coming about. Don't forget to share this video. Go ahead and share it with everybody.
Share.
Again, this was brought to you by the United Liberty Coalition. I'm Steve Robinson. This is RJ Jaffe. And thank you and have a good night.